Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Butcher Shop Talk. My name is Nicole Brunk and I am here with...
I am Ryan Calhoun.
We appreciate you guys joining in with us today again for another episode. We are excited because we have an awesome guest with us. We had promised before in the past that we would have some guests coming on talking about some really cool stuff that we got going on. As you guys know, we do have Brunk Steakhouse. That is opening at the end of April, and we have none other than our executive chef, Al, who has come to join us this evening. Sir, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, this is great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time. And so with that, we wanted to kind of give you guys an opportunity to get to know him. And so I want to pass the floor over to you and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah. First off, I'm excited to be a part of the team. I really appreciate the opportunity, the confidence, and the experience, and just excited to see where this adventure takes us. You know, I started off cooking. Actually, I started off as a baseball player, and I had never had the intention of getting into the kitchen, but went through baseball for a lot of years, all the way through college and some lower levels of professional baseball. I eventually got injured and found my way into the kitchen.
Damn it.
Yeah. I think that's happened. Ryan had, I think, maybe more of opposite because he initially had gone into culinary, or right? No, which way?
No,
did
it's
it go
the same
for you?
way.
Same way.
Yeah.
So it kind of happens, right? You have different things happening.
Yeah,
in life.
I went into the finance industry, got myself into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Had to kind of pivot, figure something else out, and I actually I fell into cooking. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always was around cooking with growing up. You know, huge family gatherings, food bringing people together, and I just watched the magic that my grandma and great grandma and my mother would make, and it just kind of was. I want to know how they did it. I wanted to know how they did it for so many people. That was the insane part too. Was I mean, you're not just cooking for 6 family members; you're cooking for 60 on an Easter Sunday, and you know everybody did their part, and I thought it was pretty awesome and fascinating. So any opportunity I had to get in the kitchen, I tried to.
So what is your? Because I have the same experience. Like my grandparents cooked a lot. I have a favorite dish that my grandma cooked. What is yours?
Signature dish for me, a plate of home, is a dish called steak picado. So it's kind of a version of a peppered steak, but you add a Latin flair on it with all the Mexican spices and stuff. But your standard beef, braising it in its broth with vegetables, and serving it with rice and beans and fresh tortillas. I mean, you can't go wrong with that because it always got better the second day when you put it on top of eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife's Hispanic, and I swear to God, maybe it's Hispanic food, but like her mom makes mole, and mole is always better the second day.
Absolutely.
The tribute to good meat and good cooks.
Yeah.
Yep.
There it is.
There you go. So you went to you started out, you said, at USC, and then you kind of went into culinary and food. So you want to talk about where that took you and how that happened?
Yeah, sure. Going through sports and stuff, and us always being on the road, I always kind of took the helm on cooking just because I was interested in also at the same time, we, as starving college students and trying to make it, you never really eat that well. So, learning how to cook for my mom.
Creative.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to.
And Latin cuisine, I mean, that's what it's all about. Creativity and creating new things from common ingredients. And from there, I had the dreams and aspirations as a little boy to be a professional baseball player. And when my path was cut short with an injury, I decided to explore the other options of looking into the kitchen and seeing where it would take me. Never did I think it would take me this far, but feeling very blessed at this point in my career with the things that I've experienced, the things I've been a part of, the chefs that I've worked with over the years, and just the different techniques and ideas of the restaurant industry that I've developed. And just looking forward to bringing that same energy, that same excitement to the new steakhouse.
Wonderful, wonderful. Where's some of your training come from that you've had?
I was blessed enough to start off in the catering industry with Wolfgang Puck. I started there just in the middle of my culinary school. That was a big experience for me because I'd never been in the kitchen formally at that point in time. It was always just, family kitchens and understanding bulk cooking and how we did it, but never the formal aspect of it and how we needed to identify portions, identify those things. So I started off in the catering industry with Wolfgang Puck out in Hollywood and Highland and LA Live. I went through the ranks and mentored under their tutelage for about 3 years until I was promoted to sous chef of the Sauciers and really took an attachment to sauces. From that point, I really worked hard my way up to become mentored under Wolfgang Puck and his team I spent under them for 4 years, just directly training under all his chefs and the team of chefs that they had there. And it was an excellent experience, until he kind of just kicked me out of the nest and said I needed to experience it on my own and figure out which direction I wanted to go.
Wow.
And that place is a machine. That place is like the most well-oiled machine I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
It's insane.
Without a doubt. I mean, you have the same processes from a 1-person event to a 1 million person event. And it's seamless. It's absolutely seamless, and it's astonishing how well they create their events and they execute their dishes, and they, everybody, I think, is also the level of passion that they have within their culture. And I think that's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. So after Wolfgang Puck, where'd you go from there? And once they kind of kicked you out, what direction did you find yourself going into?
Well, since I started in the industry a lot later than normal people, I was about 28, 29 when I started in the industry. I had a baby on the way, so I needed to really kick myself in gear to figure out how high I wanted to get in this industry, at what level I wanted to cook at, and really what was going to be my niche. If I was going to stay with catering, if I was going to go into the restaurants. Ultimately, I knew that coming from a baseball background, coming from a leadership background, I knew that I wanted to be the leader of something. I wanted to be the leader of a kitchen. I wanted to be the leader of my own business. But ultimately, I knew that I wanted to lead. I wanted to mentor. I wanted to direct. And I wanted to be a part of something bigger that was me. So I would bounce around from kitchen to kitchen. I mean, I remember the first experience I had, it was a dive bar that I was renting out a kitchen for, I think, $450 a month. But I busted my butt with my recipes and everything, and I made something into that little shoebox. And from there, it just grew. At that point, I was doing that for about 2 years when a restaurant group came into the dive bar that they were celebrating after they went to a company dinner. And I was asked to join a restaurant group to open 2 restaurants in downtown LA. That was Onyx and also Aqua. One was a raw bar and the other one was American Bistro. Had steaks, had burgers and things like that. But that's where I first got my taste of opening restaurants and having that new build experience to gain on creating menus, price points, flow of the kitchen, understanding what was going to go into the restaurant and all that. And that's where I started my love for really challenging myself to become a part of an establishment from start to finish.
Yeah, I can think that kind of hits home because it really is a team. I can see how the relation from sports and being a part of team to gravitating into the kitchen and even in business, you have a team. You're only as good as a team around you, and so you do get that feeling in that environment for sure.
For sure. And there's a lot, like I've stepped foot into. I have a lot of restaurants as clients, and I've stepped foot into. I go through the back door, but I go into a team meeting, right? And when it kind of hit home for me too, when you said like that leadership role, like when the chef actually commands his team, like it's like a quarterback talking to his team, right? Like
right.
It's every sense in the word. Like that's kind of the flow of it. And yeah, it's, if you don't have a good team behind you in the kitchen, like good luck. Yeah. You might have some good recipes, like, but you got 1 or 2 good people, but you got to have the whole, like I said, Wolfgang Puck's, place was kind of clockwork. Like, you have to have this well-oiled machine. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of plates sent back, and there's just a lot that goes on, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say your favorite cuisine is? I mean, do you lean towards one thing or another now that you've kind of been out a little bit and had some experiences with opening restaurants?
Since I've begun to evolve kind of the way I perceive food, I see myself as more challenging myself with things that I don't normally work with. I think that's my most favorite part about my profession at this point in time. We're always learning. It's always a process. There's never a time where I think if a chef ever stands up and says that he thinks he knows everything, then that's pretty much the end of your career, because food trends are always changing. Quality, where it's coming from, why it's coming from, where it's coming from, like all those things that you need to understand. You have to be a constant open book. Otherwise, the industry is going to eat you alive. I'm a true believer in that. It doesn't matter the skill set of the chef. It could be a home cook. It could be Gordon Ramsay. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a plan, you don't have organization, your skill set's going to fail you at a certain point.
Right.
Yeah, I had a chef in culinary school. I went through culinary school before I got into meat cutting and sales and all that. It stuck with me to this day. He said the only constant in food is change.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to be consistent with food is it's always changing. If you don't change with it, you're done.
You left behind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So so from with the Onyx and then the other place that you opened in LA, you were there for a little bit and then you made your way to Arizona, I hear.
Yeah, I you know, just kind of being the nerd that I am and submersing myself in the industry and kind of knowing that, you know, the best way to be able to succeed in anything is to be able to learn as much about it as possible. And during that time, I had a lot of chef friends and old instructors that were kind of guiding me in the food trends in which direction it was going. And we had noticed that a lot of the food trends were trending towards the middle of the country at the time. So I mean, Texas, I had my sights on Texas. I had my sights on heading into the Midwest and finding these areas that don't have Mexican food. They don't have that high level of cuisine that's executed at a simple, basic way for you to be able to love it. But I just ended up falling in love with the area in Arizona, and I hooked up with a restaurant group out there that I ended up opening 3 restaurants with, 2 that are franchised and 1 that is its own. And there I was able to mentor under an operator that really taught me about the ins and outs of the business, not just the food, not just the quality of dishes, but, you know, understanding your pennies, understanding what's coming in, what's going out, and what we're getting versus what we're giving. As well as the whole experience.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because not a lot of people really have like, a sneak peek behind, what goes on and what's really involved in a kitchen. I mean, there's so much more than just, cooking food and putting it on the plate. And so, I mean, there's a whole, like you said, like Wolfgang Puck is a full machine that's just like running on all cylinders. And unless you have that dialed in and you have somebody in the kitchen that knows what they're doing, that has a team around them, that has these processes in place, execution is going to fail you on a busy night.
Oh,
And
for
so
sure.
you're like, so that I think that that's if you could talk a little bit about that and how you prepare for some of your weekends and busy nights in a high volume restaurant.
Yeah, I think one mindset that most people or the normal person who isn't necessarily in the industry, who doesn't understand the formalness of it, I think you already have to come into this industry with the mindset that when it's time for people who want when it's time for people to play, that's when it's time for us to work. Ultimately, everyone's celebrations are our work time. And I think that is what puts people in a position where they necessarily lose motivation or they
Yeah.
lose energy to be a leader or a reckoning force in the industry. Um, I don't I think these chefs that are on TV and these chefs that have these celebrity clout, it's not just because they're on TV and they make the money. They still truly care about what they do. They still truly care about the guest experience. And I think that's what hits the hardest is it's very difficult to understand that a plate of food that you're eating starts 3 months earlier than when you're actually eating it, because you have to be able to dial in the product you're getting, what your price point is, all these factors that go involved with waste. Something as benign as what I receive my protein in size and weight, once I cook it changes, so that's going to change my price. Um, you have your differences in corporate structure versus private structure. Um, there's more intricacies in the corporate structure that has the bindings of rules, regulations, policies, procedures, but you also have the mom and pop private where we're interested in making good food and we're interested in making as much money as possible.
Right.
And I think sometimes certain things fall through the wayside, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I think it's just understanding that when you go into an establishment um, that has a set standard, I think you should be able to uphold that standard regardless of what your challenges are, you know? Whether it's starting 6 months ahead of time to create an experience for a customer, or you're able to adapt in the moment and create a customer experience at that point in time that you weren't expecting. I think that all comes to just being able to, again, be that open book and learning as much as possible.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we spend 6 months. We have a pretty aggressive goal of opening 10 locations between butcheries, Bronx Butcheries, and Bronx Steakhouse within a 5-year period. Obviously, we have our Chino Hills location. We got the Bronx, Norco location, butcher shop, and we have our steakhouse that opens here probably around the end of April, maybe beginning of May.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of planning that goes into that, right? Like 6 months ahead. I mean, we're sitting here meeting today, and we're not opening for another 4 to 6 weeks. But all the meetings we've had before then to sit down and dial in the menu, what we're buying.
So here's what I want to dive into.
Here we go. I like it. He was probably holding on to this one.
So no. You guys are, you guys got all this stuff in your head and you guys know what you're doing, but I'm just a salesman that's trying to get all the nitty gritty out of you guys. But I want to know what's going on with the steakhouse. What's going on with the menu? When's an opening? Do we have a rough, date or month? Give me some insight. Give
Chef?
the viewers some insight.
Yeah, Chef, I'll let you take that one away.
Yeah. So with everything that we've been putting together, super excited for all these things. I guess right now we're in that realm of our goal is to hit or be able to open around the last month or the end of the month of April, into potentially the second week of May. We're really excited because we have so many options to be able to work with. I mean, being able to have a butchery in your pocket, to be able to utilize to the maximum is, I think, something that this community in Norco should be super excited about. The quality that Bronx has brought to the community, the types of cuts. I haven't been into a butcher shop anywhere locally in the community or outside that has these types of cuts, that have the offerings that we do, and to be able to cross that over into a high level upscale steakhouse within the community that people can be excited for. I mean, we're talking dry age, we're talking wet age, ribeyes, tomahawks, hanger steak, fillets. We're messing around and flirting with the idea of fillet flights that are aged, to give a sneak peek but not give everything away.
So are you guys going to be using a lot of like the steaks that you have at your butcher shops? Is that going to translate directly into like what you guys are going to be doing at the steakhouse? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, inadvertently, because everything that we provide here as far as high quality meat, will mirror that in the restaurant.
You want it to be associated with, exactly what you're doing here.
So like if somebody wants to buy that meat and doesn't necessarily want to sit down with the family,
go on down the
come
road.
on down to Bronx Norco. We're going to take care of you and get you sent home with something good.
Right on. So what's I'd like to hear from both of you guys. Like what is going to be your like favorite item on the menu?
Oh my gosh, you know what I'm going to say.
I don't.
You have to know what I'm going to. He knows what I'm going to say.
Give it to me.
He
What
knows.
is it?
So
Well,
Nicole has had the honor of tasting several options of mashed potatoes that I've been making, and I'm flattered at the fact that she has continued to let me know that these mashed potatoes are very craveable. I think I'm excited to work with the dry age and the wet age. I think being able to offer that flavor profile in the way that I'm hoping and expecting it to be executed, I think folks in Norco and the outside neighboring communities are in for a real treat on the execution of how these steaks are going to be done at a high level. I'm excited and proud to know that you're not going to come to the steakhouse and order a medium rare because you're expecting some sort of overcook, undercook, and we have those ideas when we go to different style of steakhouses. I'm really excited to be able to bring a good quality technique executed steak to the community.
Yeah, and I say for me, I'd say what I'm really excited about, in addition to the mashed potatoes, because for sure it's right
I gotta
there.
try these fucking mashed
I'm
potatoes.
telling you,
man.
dude, they're fucking amazing. I'm not even messing around, man.
I think that's all I had to make that one time.
Yep. Yeah, it was no, it's the dry age ribeye. I'm really excited about, and the fillet. Those two are just phenomenal. Just both of them, the way he cooks the dry age is fantastic. Pan sear, it keeps all the flavor and juices in there.
Mhm.
The fillet is just absolutely perfect.
So are you guys, I deal with the very high-end restaurants, steakhouses, and I deal with, some middle of the row and some guys that are a little less expensive. Some people do portion cut, right? They'll have Newport go through our production room and do some portion cut steaks. Some guys like to do stuff in-house because they're able to utilize some of the trim and other things that otherwise you'd get. What is your idea for the steakhouse? Is that going to be something?
Well, I'll start the front part of this, and I'll let you finish on the back end of it. We have a huge display case that looks into our walk-in cooler, and
Okay.
so we have hooks for hanging beef. Excuse me, racks where we're going to have our dry age, our wet age, even some of our prosciuttos and artisan stuff for cheeses, for some of our salads and everything else. But the idea is for us to have full loins in there, so that way we're displayed, especially with the flight. We're going to have a 30, 60, 90 day, kind of medallion that you can try as one of the options that is on the menu. And so for sure, some things will be subprimal. Other things will probably have portioned cut, just depending on what it is.
Okay.
But
Little mix of both.
we definitely want to utilize that display case, because I do not think that there will be a larger display case in a restaurant in Riverside or San Bernardino County that I'm aware of.
I'm not aware of anything.
Yeah. You
So
chef?
what? So maybe for a question for Chef, what do you do with all the trim? Right, when you're cutting fillets and when you're cutting ribeyes in New York's, there is going to be some fall off, some fat, even some, like when you face the steak, right? There's going to be some small pieces. What are you guys doing with that?
The fun part is that we get to grind it up and make it into a really good burger. So we're gonna have some good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some good items that you're gonna be able to choose from for the lunch menu, being in the time that we're open before dinner. I guess to answer your question is portion versus. I think it's important for us is creating that trust within the community and creating that consistency of quality.
Okay.
I think a lot of people tend to shy away from pre-portioned stuff because they assume that it potentially would be frozen or the freshness is not there. But working with a company like Newport for a lot of years and having so many good relationships with vendors such as Newport, I think that the trust from us that the community would have starts with you as a vendor. We trust you. We trust the quality that you're bringing in. Also, with the consistency, we want to be able to deliver what we're saying we're delivering. And there are just some things that people are exceptional at, and we need to give them their props on the exceptionality of what they offer. So there are certain things that we definitely would like to do in-house. Trims that are going to be our tallow that we render down. We're going to make most of our sauces, our stocks in-house, so that we have everything that we need when we're trying to execute the dishes we're executing. But to give that consistency and that conformity that people are going to expect. If you come in on Saturday, you're not going to get just the best on Saturday because it's the busiest night. You're going to get the best on Monday night too, because that's what we offer.
Gotcha. Nice.
Absolutely. And we'll have a nice complimentary, I want to say, like lunch menu as well. So people can come in and still enjoy good, high, quality meat
Yeah.
with different lunch menu options, I think, as well.
Right on.
Yeah. So we're actually starting training, and we have some people who are bringing on. So it's going to take us a few weeks until we get situated, I think, in the kitchen and get everything dialed in, at least get our processes in place. What are you most excited about?
Ooh, R&D. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to start putting things on the grill. I cannot wait to start manipulating ingredients and just seeing how far we can make them bend so that we know exactly what direction we're going in. Trying to offer an experience that somebody would expect in the Newport Beach, Dana Point area, San Diego high-end area. Our community is just as high level, I believe, here.
Agreed.
We just don't have an ocean next to it, which
Thank you.
I
love you for that.
honestly, I think our community is one of the most beautiful communities we have in Southern California. And to put something at this level within that community, Norco doesn't stay quiet. If you're doing something great, they're gonna let you know. If you're missing a step, they're gonna let you know. So it's imperative that I bring my A game. I put all the training into the staff and the team and the confidence that they need, right? Because it's all about trust. I need to be able to look to the left and look to the right and know that who I'm going to war with every night is somebody that I want to go to war with. So
Hell yeah.
it's all about it.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Shout out to Norco, the people of Norco and the community who support family-owned businesses, small businesses, veteran-owned businesses. That you guys have been a huge supporter of Brunk since we opened 4 years ago, and it's been amazing. We actually won Business of the Year in 2022 for Brunk's Butchery in Norco.
Right on. I didn't know that.
Yep, which was amazing. And because of how supportive the community has been to Brunk's, we are very much involved in regards to sponsoring sponsoring Horse Week or the Norco Gridiron football team or Rodeo Queens or the Mounted Posse. I mean, all those people who do a lot within this community that makes it different than your average everyday other, city living, you know, uh,
Right.
places that are out there. I don't want to name any other cities, but local communities. What really makes Norco different is all of those different events and things that they have within here that involve rural living
Yeah.
in a city environment.
Yeah,
Right on.
definitely true to the culture.
Yeah.
And that's where we're trying to insert ourselves in just that culture. Not trying to reinvent the wheel, but give everybody something that they have. It's just introducing a new staple, you know?
Yeah. And it's expensive to raise horses. And they actually store the horses from Disneyland here in Norco. I don't know.
No kidding.
Yep. And so it's like there's so much that happens in here that's amazing that I just wish everybody knew about it
Mhm.
because there's so many great things about it. But yeah, we're excited to continue to invest back into the community and continue to build and bring really great things. The people in Norco deserve it. I know they appreciate it, and that's what's even better is knowing that it's acknowledged the effort that you put in to continue to build around you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to dig into some restaurant stuff.
Yeah.
You'd kind of mentioned, you want to do your stocks are in house, your sauces are in house, a lot of in house stuff, which I love. Right? There's kind of like there's a beauty about that it's kind of nostalgic. When you're talking about breaking beef or like doing whole in house stuff or whole muscles. Where do you typically see that? Because I know not everyone does that. You'd be surprised how many people want the pre-made apps as caterers or
Oh yeah.
the pre-made stocks. And so is there a difference of like where you find, I guess what I'm asking is like types of restaurants where you would find more stuff made in-house than outsourced?
I mean, I think when in-house stuff, I think honestly it's become a lost art, just the way I feel butchery has become a lost art. Their technology and our advancements in the industry have made it so easy to become complacent and comfortable with what's being delivered on the shelves, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. Yes, you check your purveyors, yes, you check your product, but at a certain point it's more so, I think, that passion and taking that next step to create that experience from what you're doing. So I mean, you're talking like if I was to go to the Four Seasons, if I was to go to the Ritz-Carlton, if I'm going to somewhere that is world renowned. You go to Europe, they have a lot of Michelin star restaurants. East Coast has a lot of Michelin star restaurants. But even then, there really isn't that much fabrication going on with proteins. There isn't
Really?
that much fabrication going on because they're trying to maintain such consistency. They're willing to spend the price on that consistency and that portion of the business that we really lose that relationship with what it is we're serving. I think with us, the difference would be that you're definitely going to taste the difference in the plates because, sauces from scratch, stocks from scratch, it's a different flavor.
For sure.
It's a different cook. It's a different richness. You can go down the line on all the sensory impulses that you get from it. I mean, anybody, it's, before you had to have a trained palate to figure out what you were eating. But at the end of the day, because everybody has so much access to different foods and different types of foods on how they're prepared, if you taste a sauce from scratch, I think most people would actually shy away from it than the actual manufactured sauce, which is sad to me.
Really?
I do.
Wow.
Interesting.
I mean, a fun fact I always throw out is that ranch is no longer considered a condiment in the US because we consume it so much as Americans. It's considered a beverage.
What?
So
By who?
No.
it's on the consumption of
That's
it so
wild.
much they look at it as a beverage and how it's sold because of how much ranch is sold. So I mean,
Do you think it's a consistency thing?
I do.
Gotcha.
I do. I think it's a consistency thing. I think it's also a convenience.
The convenience I get.
But it's just, I think with the level in which what we're trying to do here with the Steakhouse and what we're trying to accomplish, you have to go scratch items when you can. It always can't be everything, but I think if, again, with the organization, the plan, how we structure the menu, how we get the flow of the kitchen down, how the team is trained on the different aspects of what we're trying to accomplish, I think we can get it done and
Nail it down.
yeah, and it creates a better experience in the end.
I love so one of my favorite restaurants in Orange County. Actually, one of my best clients. Funny, I they didn't buy anything from me for about 6 months, and I would just keep stopping in, and then eventually someone dropped the ball, and I got all their bone business because they did all their own demi, they did everything right, and I'm thinking to myself like, bones, really? Little did I know they were like 600 pounds of bones every week. Long story short, they do all their own demi. They do all their own chicken stock. They're ordering pork bones and lamb bones. And this place is a machine. I think you know the restaurant I'm talking about. This place is a machine. I think it's one of the better steakhouses in Orange County. And they do it all themselves. And it really kind of blew me away that how busy this place is can actually but can actually manage to do this day after day and keep it as consistent as they have. And then to the other point, I have customers, we have the frozen 8 or 16 pound gallon of demi glaze, right? That's frozen.
Yeah.
And I have a customer say, yeah, go ahead and throw that on my order tomorrow. And I'm just thinking to myself like, really, man?
Oh yeah. Wah, wah, wah. There's our button.
Yeah.
I need the button. I need that button right now. I need that button.
And so it always boggled me, like, at what point do you like go from scratch to the pre-made stuff or the outsourced stuff? And I never knew really like where that line was. But I guess, it just comes down to convenience and
execution.
I guess consistency.
I think it has to do with your team too, right? It goes back to that leadership as well. I mean, you can't necessarily start a movement with somebody who doesn't believe in the movement to begin with. So if you're a chef, if you're somebody who's going to step into an environment where you're going to lead from scratch, you're going to lead from, hey, we're going to make our stocks, right? So then we need to be religious on making those stocks, and we need to hold people accountable in learning how to make those stocks so that everybody has the same resources to feel successful. I think where people start to break down their process and start to accept the complacency of pre-manufactured items that we just add hot water and we whisk it together. I think it turns into a justification for, well, I always know what my price is. I always know what I can sell it for. I always know what my flavor is, and anybody can do it. So I guess what separates us from everybody else and what will separate us is that what we're going to do, not everybody can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so tired of like going out to eat and everything. Like, I think people can really tell the difference because I feel like the quality in restaurants and has just gone down so much. And I think a lot of it has to do with the processes that they're using, right? Pulling demi glazes out of cans or whatever it might be.
Well, I think people are trying to hit a price point too.
Right.
Right. I think we've been in a little bit of a recession. The economy's not, the economy's not doing terrific. And so I think some of the higher end places, tried to to stay in business, you got to, save some dollars.
For sure.
And so I think, I don't want to say quality got compromised, but I think, they went to procedures, or they went to products that could save them a little bit of money. And that's where I thought, like, especially with demi, right? Veal demi glaze, I thought that's what it really mostly led to was a price point, because veal bones are expensive. They're not cheap. You can get beef bones for like $1, but veal bones are like $4. Fun fact, they harvest more veal for their bones than anything else. We'll harvest veal and we will sell 10 times more bones than anything else. There's a lot of loin and legs and shoulders and things that are frozen, and they're not kept as fresh a lot of times because we're just selling bones. We're harvesting just for bones because people want veal bones.
When you say bones, you can get them for like $1 or so. Is that like knuckle, or are you talking
like
about
beef
split
knuckle
bone?
bones?
Beef
Yeah.
Okay, so
Beef
not like
knuckle bones,
split
not
bone,
like the
but,
marrow bones
okay, but
per
just
se.
like, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But knuckle bones is something you'd make stock out of. But veal bones are like $4 a pound.
Gotcha.
That's your cost, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So that's what I thought it stemmed from. I thought it stemmed from like, more of a price point issue.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, I think to touch on, I don't think it's so much the price point of the product, but it's actually the mentality. I think the price point of labor, because you think about the process in which demi is going to take. If you grow a solid demi, it's going to be 48 hours before you do anything with it. But the time that it takes to prep everything that you need for that demi, what you're putting into it,
Your produce,
you need someone hanging out with it. You need someone babysitting it while they're there. Let it go overnight. You need somebody that personal attention to it. Not all places are able to give up a body like that and just spend labor on just making demi. So that's, I think I think people, or in the industry, it's easy to overlook the cost of a pre-manufactured item with the mentality and justification that I'm saving on the back end with labor. That's not always the case.
Gotcha.
Because if your case of demi that you're buying pre-manufactured is $250 a case, you're not going to spend $250 on one person just managing that demi. So they see that as an offset. I can render this longer than somebody else having to sit there and create this from scratch.
Got it. And let's be honest, like every sauce, right? It's going to start with one of those stocks.
Sure.
Right? One of those 5 mother stocks. And so you got to start with good demi. You got to start with good stocks if you're going to make good sauces.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm excited, man.
I know. I just as listening to him talk about just the process on what we're going to be, delivering is so exciting because as I was mentioning before, for me, and I think I talked about being a picky consumer. I'm a picky consumer. I even said I'm a picky bitch. I am. But as a business owner and what I want to give to people, I'm as picky too because I know how it is to be that customer.
Sure.
And so the elevation and what we want to deliver has to meet that standard. Yeah, I am skewed for sure because I am. And I know other people say they come into the store all the time and they talk about this. They're so tired and disappointed of the food that they're getting. If you're going to an Italian place, it's something that's poured out of a can. It's the noodles. They're just, brought out of a package. They're not, made in-house.
Oh, don't even get me started on homemade pasta.
Homemade pasta for sure. But it's like great because knowing that we're going to be doing everything from scratch, I feel like that the customers are going to really be able to have that high-end experience.
Definitely.
And so for me, I'm really excited about that. I can't wait.
Yeah. So not so much into food, but just kind of keeping up with the Bronx Steakhouse opening. You guys, you have a beautiful bar back there. Right?
Yes.
What's your cocktail list gonna look like? What's your drink menu's gonna look like? Are you is it gonna be like kind of this new mixology type menu, or is it gonna be kind of those old fashions?
Yeah, I think you're gonna look at your old fashions. I think you're gonna look at some other drinks that are gonna go really well with like your steaks, of course. And then we'll have other wines that'll pair nicely with different kinds of protein. If it's gonna be in chicken or fish or maybe even some other red meats. We'll have a nice list of our wines.
Steakhouse got to have a good wine list.
Got to have a good wine list. So I'm not too familiar personally myself as far as like wines and pairings and different things like that. But I do know that we have hired a bar manager that has worked, that's an extensive bar manager and trainer for other restaurants. That's going to come in and work very closely with chef to make sure that not only do we have the right drinks for our plates, but that our staff and serve staff is going to be able to make recommendations based off of orders from our customers.
Gotcha.
So it'll be, that bar is a little, but by the way, that bar was a little bit bigger than we had anticipated, but it definitely is. It creates a very intimate space for everybody in the dining area. What's also cool is that we have the front patio and the side patio, but definitely when you're inside, it's like you have this, the kitchen to the left, which is an open concept kitchen with the bar in the middle, really big bar, and the seating around it, along with the display case for the walk-in cooler on the right-hand side. And so I feel like when you're in there, there's just, you kind of walk into a capsule of like just a very intimate space where it's everything focused on like steakhouse, protein, high quality service. Even our waitresses and wait staff are from Morton's.
Right on.
Yeah. So we're excited to, from beginning to end, from the kitchen down to the waiter who's taking the order from the customer at the table, the experience is so important to us. And again, it goes back to that service matching the quality of what we're providing.
That's what I was say, that's what we talked about on our last episode.
It is,
that customer service, that personalized touch that everyone wants.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about what your favorite cut is, or what your favorite dish is you're most excited about to make for the restaurant.
I honestly, I'm excited to work with all the different types of meat. I think that um, every aspect of what we have in the menu is going to be able to tell its own story, but when you put it on a table, it'll be a bigger story that it tells. The salmon, the half chicken. We're thinking about throwing on a pork chop, bone-in pork chop, all of these different aspects to a menu, to a restaurant, to the space has to tie all that stuff in together. So the intimacy of the bar tying in the age room or our showcase room, and then, the kitchen having that open space. I think having those dishes that are going to be that elevated experience, but it's going to hit you right in the soul because it's going to feed that need, right? I agree with you, Nicole, on that. There's that sort of that mediocrity in our industry right now with the level of love that is put into dishes. I don't think it has
Yeah.
to do with our ingredients. I don't think it has to do with, the product that people are getting in. I just think it has to do with people giving a shit about what they do,
Yeah.
and that goes across the board, right? So, if we know that we have somebody coming in from the community, or we have somebody that heard word of mouth that made a trip in from San Diego, if we could figure out where they're coming from, what they're about, and kind of add a little bit of extra knock on the experience and that customer service level to thank you for visiting us from Carlsbad. Well, how did you know? Well, we pay attention.
Mm.
So, different stuff like that. I think it has to do with just everybody taking ownership and pride for the position and the role that they play on the team, and knowing that at the end of the day, it's for one common goal, and that's for us to be as successful as possible in its entirety, not just for Nicole, not just for you as a vendor, not just for me as the chef. It has to be the whole team involved, because when I lead a team, I don't just think about the team that I have, but I think that this team also feeds their family. This team also takes care of people outside of that.
Yeah.
So when you're not setting your team up for success, and then it becomes an issue for them where now their job is in jeopardy in that circumstance, that's not cool. So I think us being on that higher level of management and team leadership, that goes hand in hand with the customer experience, because if you got a serving staff or a management staff that doesn't understand the client experience, you're dead in the water where you stand.
For sure.
Let me ask you a question. You guys have talked a little bit about Michelin star. What does it take for us? What would you say it would take? And I'd ask both you guys this
Oh man.
for a steakhouse to win a Michelin star, because I think it's more. I don't know if like Michelin star restaurants are more like different types of cuisine, but for a steakhouse, I feel like you have to be
You could be any type of cuisine. Michelin does not I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but they don't
discriminate.
discriminate. Thank you. No, there's great Michelin star restaurants all over the place. I will say this, it's hard as shit. There are, that I know of, two Michelin star restaurants, three Michelin star restaurants in California. The Addison down in San Diego, and the French Laundry up in Napa Valley. There's a handful of 2 and 1 stars throughout California. But if you look at the amount of restaurants that are in California as to the ones that even have 1 or 2 stars, less than 1%, less than a fraction of a percent. It is so hard, and it is perfection to its finest.
And that's everything.
Yes.
That is everything. You're talking door jams, you're talking fridge gaskets, you're talking, I mean, it's not just your food. It's
You're
not
talking
just
cleanliness, you're talking service, you're talking quality of food. Everything has to be perfect.
They interview the staff. Your chef has to be at a certain level with certain type of James Beard type of acknowledgments, things of that nature, that it's a progression. And then you essentially have to get your restaurant in a condition where essentially you don't want to dirty it and you don't want to eat in it, but that's what you have to do in order to earn it. So it's almost like a Michelin star is almost like an oxymoron in the industry, because everything has to be as perfect as possible, but people still be able to have that dynamic experience.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is not that like you don't get an experience anywhere else, but when you go to a 3 Michelin star or even a 2 Michelin star restaurant, it is, by every means of the word, it is an experience. The service is so over the top great. The food is just, it's artwork.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It is wild.
So there's a difference between, you said there's a handful of like 1 and 2 star,
Mhm.
but then 3 star. So talk a little bit about the different, how do you get the 3? What's a 1? Just take.
I'm not that educated as to where I really know the difference. I can say, like, obviously there's probably like anything else, right? You're going to be on some sort of grading scale, and as things fall off, maybe they saw something that was a little dirtier than they'd like. Maybe they ordered medium rare and they thought it was more medium. Little things like that. I would assume you just kind of get a knockoff, right? And then you start at 3 and you slowly fall to 2 or 1 or nothing. And then they also have like what they call a bib gourmand, which is like the Michelin Guide's recommendation. So you didn't earn a 1, 2, or 3 star, but we're recognizing you because you're still a rock solid restaurant.
Nice.
And so there's a lot of restaurants that that you've been to that are kind of probably at that list.
Yeah.
And they're all over the place. There's plenty of those in the Inland Empire, in Orange County, San Diego, all over the place.
How do they get on that list, or how does that? How does it, like, the recognition part? I guess trying to understand.
Michelin's changed. It used to be, and Chef, correct me if I'm wrong. It used to be where you had the I don't want to say panel, but you had the Michelin group.
It's a committee.
Right, committee, thank you. And they would pop into restaurants and without notice, right, and grade you. Nowadays, you call them.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a Michelin star restaurant, you call them, and you don't know when per se, but throughout the next 6 months, someone from Michelin is coming in and you're getting rated.
Yeah.
And so the people that have any kind of stars, or even the big gourmands, they've tried to shoot for stars. They've actively called the Michelin committee, the panel, and they know that they're coming in and they're being graded or judged. And then you'll fall somewhere within those categories.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What other kind of accolades are, in the restaurant industry outside of a Michelin star that are, achievable or admirable?
Well, I think probably the next one is what he just named, the James Beard.
Yeah, James Beard, and that can go for specific chefs, specific restaurants. They have everything from chef to restaurateur to, and it's all by regions. They break it down into every single region: Northwest, Pacific Northwest, Midwest, and all that. So there's a lot of chefs that receive. I think I hear more of. Correct me if I'm wrong. I hear more of chefs that are nominees, than actual winners, because that in itself is. That in itself is extremely
like an
hard
Oscar
to obtain
nominee
as well. Yeah, I mean,
you got nominated.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's also that recognition of somebody coming in and you don't know when they're coming, you don't know what they're doing, and then they just grade you, and all of a sudden you have. But I mean, it can go all the way down to, things in the magazine. One of the restaurants that I was responsible for just recently, I received an award for making that restaurant one of the top 25 of 2025 for the Inland Empire. So, it's just a matter of having the exposure, not being shy to get our name out there, inviting people in to eat, taking our lumps and bruises with the critiques, but learning from the critiques and making it better.
Yeah.
I think that's where you get a lot of recognition, right? There's a ton of really high profile, very good, influential food critics.
Yeah.
And when those people come in and you start getting recognized by them, maybe they'll write something good about you, and you take those people's opinions are very much valued by who's reading them, right? Yeah. And so when you get some good words from them, that's when you start to like, okay, maybe we're doing something right,
Yeah.
And that's when you start to get noticed, and that's when the James Beards, and like a lot of the, I forgot, it was someone's name. I forgot, it was 101 best restaurants. But you'll get a lot of those recognitions. Yeah. And then, you'll kind of work your way up from it.
The food and wine festivals too. I think the food and wine festivals have become so elaborate. I was a part of LA Food and Wine for the 6 years that I was with Wolfgang Puck, and the amount of chefs and people that we worked with and the operation that went into putting that food and wine, it was a showcase in itself. I mean, they had sushi chefs breaking down full tunas. Right there while people were trying the sake and all that stuff. So, I mean, it's a matter of, really, this industry has come into its own of what you put into it is essentially what you're going to get out of it. So I feel like if somebody has a concept that is not doing as well as they should have, I mean, you definitely got to look at yourself first and how you're running in that concept before you can go out saying that people aren't interested in your concept.
Absolutely. 100%. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say is like the difference between like hotel restaurants and steakhouses or like mom and pops, and then you have your chain? I mean, what would you say the biggest differences between like those three categories in the restaurant world?
That's a great question because there is some differences. I think the hotel world is a different animal and beast in its own. I mean that the what the expectation of the client is in a hotel, especially if you're going to a high end hotel where you're going to stay, a resort. Um, it's it's always geared towards guest satisfaction, customer relations. Um, if my son wants pancakes at 12:30 in the night in the morning and the kitchen's open, well, the kitchen better make my son 12 pancakes. And
Right.
whereas mom and pop restaurants, private owned restaurants, investor owned restaurants, there's a little bit more leniency in how I feel they deal with the customers. There's also a little bit more leniency on how we can evolve the menu as opposed to having that handcuffed path of this is what our menu is and this is what the menu is in all six of the locations that we have. So I think those are the different challenges. It goes from, I think, crazy structured to open to interpretation, and how much you want to put into it is how much you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
And like affecting the menu and stuff, right? Because like I'm
exactly.
sure with a hotel, it's like probably dialed in how they want it. You got to execute against that. You might not have as much
Yeah, I mean,
flexibility when it comes to like
a couple hotels that I was a part of that I mean you have one of the hotels is that I can remember had nine food and beverage outlets.
wow.
So we had
It's a resort.
Yeah, it
nine
is for sure.
yeah, we had nine menus for the nine different food and beverage outlets, and maybe one or two things overlap. So essentially I had nine different menus that I had to come up with. It was seasonally changing because they were quarterly. So every 4 months I had new nine menus coming out. Um, and it had to be cohesive to the resort and what we were offering. As opposed to you walk into Bronx, this is our menu, this is what we're doing, these are our hours of operation. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed your experience. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas the person you had an issue with in the hotel the night before because their steak wasn't cooked properly,
Mm,
now you got to deal with them at breakfast.
again, yeah.
He's gonna
For
want his
sure. Yeah,
pancakes.
exactly.
You
Well,
know,
actually, I know we're kind of getting up towards the end of our episode for tonight, but I wanted to before we go, just have you kind of bring up one little thing that you got going on that you're pretty excited about. That I know that you maybe give an opportunity for people to vote for you. I know you're going into a competition, and so I wanted to give you an opportunity to plug that before we kind of close out and finish off here for the night.
that's cool. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly, I applied for the Food Network's favorite chef about 4 or 5 months ago, and I was selected as a candidate to partake in
No
that
kidding.
competition.
Right on.
Right now, the preliminary voting is going to start taking place on the 31st. I have sent my profile to Nicole so that she can put it on social media and just kind of everybody get to know me in the community. But this is a huge opportunity for me. I never expected this to happen. It's an opportunity to be able to cook with some celebrity chefs in the Food Network kitchens, take a foodie tour in New York, and also win a pretty good little prize package of some money. But I'm super stoked about this because it gives me an opportunity to showcase, you know, a chef has their controlled, disciplined path, but I think every chef also has that mad scientist in them when they want to start creating things. And this is what it's giving me the opportunity to do. I have tons of pictures of my food on there that I've done from desserts to, entrees and stuff. And it's just an extraordinary opportunity to be able to
So
kind
I
of
gotta
put
I gotta
myself
ask
out
one
there.
question here. At any point during this competition, will you cook them mashed potatoes?
Or call out Bronx Butchery,
I
Bronx
mean,
Steakhouse.
yeah, absolutely. That's going to be it all along the way. I think, as a matter of fact, so they send every 2 weeks or every week. There's a certain what am I looking for?
Competition or
It's kind of like a task.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
they give us
Yeah.
like a weekly task or that we have to do. So this week, I just got the email today. I got to go home and take care of it. But it's describing my signature dish.
Nice.
Before that was what's my inspiration. Um, what's my favorite one ingredient to use, and it's just different questions like that. But I think I have to change my signature dish to mashed potatoes now that I think about it.
I still gotta try these things, man.
So where can, if you want to tell the guests, where can they go on to log on to vote for you if they have an opportunity to look at some of the stuff you've done?
Definitely. The tag name is The Favorite Chef. It's brought to you by the Food Network, hosted by Carla Hall, Aron Sanchez, and Andrew Zimmern. 3 of my favorite chefs. You guys can go onto the website. There is a link that you can click on when you check the profile for Chef Al Benavente. But I can also put the link on Brunk's social media through Nicole. I'll have it on my media and things like that. But it's completely right now voting based. So votes are huge. I would really appreciate everybody pushing it out there and kind of getting it out there. But just to be in this experience alone is pretty awesome.
That's great.
Well, you got my vote.
Yep, absolutely. Well, you heard it here, folks. We are so happy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we look forward to having you guys here with us on another episode. Do not forget to like, follow, and subscribe on our YouTube channel, Butcher Shop Talk. We got more stuff to come. And who knows, maybe we might bring you back for another episode. I kind of enjoyed you having you here tonight.
Sounds
We
great.
appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you soon.